On a shattered alien world, Captain Elias Caldwell chases a faint signal through glowing ruins, seeking survivors of Earth's devastation. A mysterious woman with golden eyes holds the key to Arctura's lost hope. Will they defy a ruthless colonel to save a dying planet? Read on to uncover their fate. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more captivating stories, and inspire us to create even more amazing content. The shuttle shuddered as it cut through Arctura's atmosphere, the hum of its engines barely audible over the crackling radio static. Captain Elias Caldwell gripped the controls, eyes fixed on the glowing landscape below. He didn't need the sensors to tell him the planet was dying. The deep scar left by Earth's bombardment 3 years ago was still visible, jagged ruins, shattered coral spires, and vast, lifeless plains stretching out into the horizon. Arctura was a ghost world. Approaching landing zone, Zippy, his floating reconnaissance drone, chimed from the corner. Its voice was as dry as a desert. "You sure about this? Looks like a nice little cemetery down there." Elias didn't respond. He had been sent to confirm a faint signal, a pulse that had been detected days ago, flickering weakly through the debris of Lumora. It was supposed to be just another mission, another objective for Earth's endless resource grab. But this time, something gnawed at him. Part of him, the part that no one knew about, was hoping for something more. A survivor, maybe. Some shred of hope that Earth hadn't wiped out everything that had once lived here. The shuttle lurched as it broke through the last of the clouds, and the vast, glowing ruins of Lumora came into view. Bioluminescent plants pulsed like faint heartbeats amidst the ruins, casting eerie shadows over shattered architecture. Some of the buildings still stood, if only barely, but the destruction was undeniable. The once thriving city was now a hushed memory, a place of sorrow. Elias's heart tightened as he set the shuttle down on a narrow plateau near the heart of the city. The landing gear scraped against the uneven surface, a metallic protest against the ruins. His pulse quickened. No one had been here in years, not since Earth's orbital bombardment had leveled the planet. And yet, that signal, the one faint and haunting, had to come from somewhere. "Stay sharp, Captain," Zippy warned, its floating orb jittering with a few errant movements. "You don't want to become the next historical artifact here." The door hissed open, and Elias's boots met the soft, moss-covered ground. A faint breeze stirred, carrying with it the sharp scent of ozone and something older, deeper. A world that had lived and died long before humanity's footprints reached it. His hand instinctively went to the blaster at his hip, but he kept it holstered. There was no need to make the first move, a violent one. Not yet. A flicker of movement caught his eye in the distance. He froze. Someone, was out there. His pulse quickened. He couldn't make out any details yet, but the signal was real. Whoever had sent it was still alive. And if they were alive, so was hope. Chapter 2. The first glimpse of Lirien. Elias moved cautiously, his boots sinking slightly into the moss-covered earth as he navigated through the ruins of Lumora. The city once teemed with life. Now, only the bioluminescent plants and the faint hum of forgotten energy remained. Every step he took seemed to echo in the hollow emptiness, each footfall a reminder of the destruction humanity had wrought. The faint pulse of the distress signal guided him deeper into the city, cutting through the eerie silence like a beacon. He didn't know what he expected, perhaps a survivor holed up in one of the crumbling buildings, or an automated distress beacon looping on repeat. What he hadn't prepared for was the figure in the distance. At first, it was a blur, just a shape against the backdrop of glowing flora. But then, as Elias stepped closer, the figure became clearer. A woman, though unlike any human he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with an opalescent glow, the light reflecting in waves like the surface of a pearl. Her eyes, large and molten gold, gleamed with a warmth that seemed to radiate even in the dim light. She stood motionless, her silhouette framed by the flickering bioluminescence, the faint pulse of the signal drawing her into his orbit. Elias froze, heart pounding in his chest. This wasn't a search and rescue mission anymore. This was something else. His mind raced, heart hammering, and his breath quickened. The woman, her aura, her presence, was like a dream, too surreal to be real. Yet, there she was. "Hey," he called softly, his voice almost swallowed by the thick, still air. "I'm not here to hurt you." The woman's eyes widened as she took a step back, her body tense, as if ready to flee at any moment. Elias could see the fear in her posture, the way her hands hovered near her body, clenched into tight fists. The golden eyes locked onto him, a mixture of caution and something deeper, more fragile. He didn't move at first. His mind scrambled for the right approach, for a way to assure her that he was no threat. He holstered his blaster slowly, making sure each movement was deliberate, controlled. His hand extended in a slow, almost hesitant gesture, offering peace. "I'm not going to hurt you," Elias said again, his voice soft but firm. I just want to help." The woman's gaze flickered from his outstretched hand to his face, her expression unreadable. For a moment, time seemed to stretch. The distance between them felt like an entire lifetime, and yet the quiet tension seemed to be pulling them together. She took a single, hesitant step forward. Their eyes met again, and in that moment, Elias knew he wasn't alone in this desolate place anymore. Something had shifted. The air, charged with fear and uncertainty, began to hum with the possibility of something new. Her hand trembled as she slowly reached out to meet his. Chapter 3. Lirien's Fear and Elias's Gentle Persistence. Lirien's hand trembled as it hovered just inches from Elias's outstretched palm. He held his breath, watching her eyes, like molten gold, flickering between fear and uncertainty. For a moment, time seemed to stretch, each second dragging as the tension built between them. The air around them was thick with the weight of unsaid words. Elias could feel the heat of her gaze, her weariness burning through the space between them. Her body was still, frozen in that moment of hesitation. She wanted to trust him. He could see it in the way she fought to control her breathing. But fear held her in place. Fear of him. Fear of what had happened to her world. He lowered his hand slowly, making no sudden moves, trying to show her that he wasn't a threat. His mind raced, remembering every mission briefing, every combat training that had drilled him on how to read situations like this. But there was no manual for this, no strategy to break through the terror of a stranger's past. "I'm not here to hurt you," he repeated, his voice a little softer this time, more earnest. He didn't know if she understood every word, but he hoped she could hear the sincerity in his tone. "I just want to help. Please." The silence was deafening. Zippy's voice crackled in his ear, too loud, too casual for the moment. "Well, if you're not gonna shoot her, I guess I'll just sit tight, Captain. Don't mess this up. She's staring at you like she's about to bolt." Elias ignored Zippy. He was used to the drone's sarcastic commentary by now. His focus remained on Lirien, the way her body shuddered ever so slightly, her gaze flickering between his hand and his face. Then, slowly, inch by inch, her hand came closer. The air around them seemed to still, every heartbeat louder than the last. Elias could see the fear in her eyes, but there was something else too, something fragile but undeniable. Hope, maybe, or perhaps a spark of trust. Her fingers brushed his. It was barely a touch, but to Elias, it felt like the world had shifted. "I won't hurt you," he whispered again, his voice a promise. Lirien's lips parted, her gaze softening as she finally, slowly, let her hand rest fully in his. Her skin was cool, smooth, alien, yet achingly familiar. In that moment, something deep inside Elias shifted too. The mission was no longer about a faint signal or finding survivors. It was about protecting her, whatever it took. Chapter 4. The Memora's Archives. Lirien's hand remained in Elias's as she led him through the twisting ruins of Lumora. The city's silence was suffocating, broken only by the soft crunch of their footsteps on the moss-covered ground. The dim light of the bioluminescent plants pulsed faintly, casting long, eerie shadows across the remnants of alien architecture, shattered columns, broken stone pathways, and the faint traces of a civilization that had once thrived. Elias tried to ignore the heavy weight in his chest, the relentless guilt that gnawed at him as they moved deeper into the heart of the ruins. The destruction of Arctura hadn't just been an accident, it was deliberate. Earth had obliterated an entire world, and now, standing here with the last survivor, he could feel the full weight of that reckoning. Lirien didn't speak as they walked, but her presence was enough to guide him. Every once in a while, her golden eyes flicked toward him, and in the soft light, Elias could see the sadness in them, the same sorrow he felt echoing in his own chest. They were both alone now, bound together by tragedy. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the entrance to a subterranean chamber. The air felt colder here, the walls of the tunnel glimmering with the same faint bioluminescence. But in the center of the room stood something entirely different, a crystalline structure, an enormous, pulsating formation that seemed to hum with life. This was the Memora, the ancient sentient archive of Arctura. Lirien stopped in front of the structure and turned to Elias, her gaze still wary but softening. "The Memora holds the memories of my people," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. "It remembers everything." The crystal's surface shimmered as though it sensed their presence, ripples of light dancing across its surface. Elias stepped forward, drawn to it despite the creeping unease in his stomach. He wasn't sure what he expected, but the overwhelming feeling of being watched, of being enveloped by the collective memory of a civilization, made his skin prickle. Lirien reached out, her fingers brushing the surface of the Memora. The light flared brightly, and a flood of images surged into Elias's mind. The city, vibrant and full of life. The sound of laughter, the warm glow of sunset over lush fields. Faces, families, friends, smiling in the soft light of Arctura's twin moons. And then, it all shattered. Cities burned, crumbling to ash beneath the onslaught of Earth's bombardment. The screams of the dying, the chaos, the devastation. Elias felt the weight of it all, every life lost, every dream extinguished in an instant. The final image was the hardest to bear. Lirien, standing in the ruins of her home, alone. Elias gasped, his hand instinctively reaching for his head. But the flood of memories kept coming. Too much to process. Lirien's voice broke through, soft and steady. "This is my pain," she said, "but also my people's hope." Elias's breath caught in his throat. He looked at Lirien, her face etched with the scars of loss, and understood. This wasn't just her burden to carry. It was a world's weight, shared between them now. Chapter 5. A touch beneath the glowing vines. The air around them seemed to hum with energy. As Elias and Lirien stepped out of the Memora's chambers and into the open, the ruins of Lumora lay before them, bathed in the soft, radiant light of the bioluminescent flora that stretched toward the heavens. The glowing vine nests swayed gently in the breeze, casting shadows that danced like ghosts on the cracked stone. It was a scene both haunting and beautiful, a reminder of what Arctura had once been. Lirien's hand was still in Elias's, her skin cool and smooth against his. He wasn't sure why he hadn't let go yet, perhaps because it felt right, perhaps because he feared what would happen if he did. Her warmth was a stark contrast to the cold, alien world around them. For the first time since his arrival on Arctura, Elias felt like he wasn't completely alone. He glanced over at her. Her face was illuminated by the soft glow of the vineness, her golden eyes reflecting 1,000 shades of sorrow. But there was something else there, too, a flicker of hope, fragile but real. "I never imagined I'd see something like this," Elias murmured, his voice quiet in the stillness. "The world, the way it was, it's so different." Lirien's eyes met his, and for a moment, he could see the weight of centuries of loss in them. But then she gave him a faint, almost imperceptible smile, a sad, wistful thing. "This is what we were," she said softly. "But we are still here, Captain. Even if the world is broken, we are still here." Elias didn't know how to respond. Words felt useless in the face of what she had lost, what they both had lost. Instead, he gave her hand a gentle squeeze, a silent promise. They moved slowly through the glowing garden, the silence between them now comfortable, but charged with something unspoken. Elias couldn't help but notice the way the vine nest reacted to their presence, their luminescence shifting as if they were alive, aware. It was beautiful, unsettling in its otherness, and yet it felt right. It felt like they belonged here, together, even if only for this fleeting moment. As they reached the heart of the grove, a large tree stood before them, its trunk wide and ancient, its branches draped with luminous tendrils. The soft light from the tree bathed them in its glow, and Elias stopped, feeling something deep within him stir. He turned to Lirien, his breath catching in his chest. "Lirien," he began, his voice thick with emotion. He reached out, his fingers trembling slightly as he brushed a stray lock of hair from her face. The moment their eyes locked, something shifted between them. There were no words needed now, just a deep, mutual understanding. Elias leaned in, his heart pounding in his chest, and kissed her softly, his lips brushing hers for the first time. It was a kiss filled with all the emotions they had both carried silently since they met, the fear, the grief, the hope, the longing for something better, for a world rebuilt, for a future where they might stand side by side, not just as survivors, but as something more. As they pulled apart, their foreheads resting together, Elias whispered, "I'll protect you. Whatever happens, I'll protect you." And in the soft, glowing light of Arctura, it felt like a vow, a promise that neither of them could break. Chapter 6: The Arrival of Colonel Stanton. The stillness of the glowing grove shattered when the low hum of an engine cut through the air. Elias's head snapped toward the distant horizon, where the unmistakable shape of a dropship emerged from the thick clouds above. The sleek, armored craft descended rapidly, its thrusters kicking up a cloud of dust as it touched down with a sharp hiss. The ground trembled slightly under the impact, but Elias didn't flinch. He was too focused on what that ship meant. Lirien's grip on his hand tightened, her body stiffening beside him. Elias could feel her anxiety in the way she shifted, her golden eyes narrowing as the dropship's engines powered down, levying an oppressive silence in their wake. "They've come," Lirien whispered, her voice carrying a note of dread. Elias turned toward her, his face set. "Stay close," he said, his tone firm. He knew that the arrival of Earth's forces wasn't just a military operation. It was a threat to everything that Lirien had left, and he wouldn't let them destroy her world. He couldn't. From the belly of the ship, a figure emerged, framed by the harsh, artificial lights of the craft. Colonel Stanton. Her silhouette was rigid, sharp, and commanding, with the unmistakable air of someone who had spent her life following orders without question. Elias's pulse quickened as Stanton's boots hit the ground, her eyes scanning the landscape with cold efficiency. She didn't seem to notice the devastation around her, the loss of life, the alien beauty of Arctura. No, to her, it was just another resource-rich planet ripe for exploitation. Stanton's gaze swept over Elias and Lirien, narrowing as she assessed the situation. Elias could feel her calculating mind working, sizing them up, weighing her options. "Captain Caldwell," she called, her voice crisp, no trace of warmth in it. "We've been given a directive. You will cooperate immediately." Elias's jaw tightened, and for a moment he considered ignoring her, walking away with Lirien into the safety of the ruins. But he knew that would get them nowhere. Stanton wouldn't stop until she had what she came for. "I'm not going to let you destroy what's left of this world," Elias said, his voice steady but laced with defiance. "These people, this planet, deserve better than what Earth did to them." Stanton's eyes flicked to Lirien, studying her for a brief moment before turning her gaze back to Elias. "Sentiment won't change the reality. You'll do as I say, or I'll report your failure." Elias clenched his fists, his eyes never levying her. Not this time. The tension between them was palpable. Stanton took a step forward, her boots crunching against the moss, her expression hardening. I'll give you one chance, Captain, she said coldly. Come with me now, or this planet becomes another casualty. The weight of her words hung in the air, the threat unmistakable. Elias knew then that the battle wasn't just for survival. It was for everything Arctura stood for, and it was a fight he was willing to die for. Chapter 7. The Stand Against Stanton. Elias stood firm, his back straight, facing Colonel Stanton. The weight of her stare felt like 1,000 tons pressing against his chest. But he refused to break. She was everything he had come to despise in Earth's military: cold, pragmatic, and utterly ruthless. He had seen her type before, but never this close, never in such a personal fight. Lirien stood just behind him, her hand still gripping his, her presence like a silent plea. She was afraid. That much was clear in the way her body trembled ever so slightly. But there was a new strength in her eyes. Her world was being threatened. But now, she wasn't alone, and neither was he. Stanton's cold gaze flicked between them, her mouth curving into a slight, humorless smile. You're out of your depth here, Captain. You've no idea what you're up against. Elias took a deep breath, steadying his voice. I know exactly what I'm up against, he replied, his voice low but resolute. And I'm not going to let you destroy what's left of this planet. Arctura deserves a chance to heal. Stanton's eyes hardened. You're wasting your time. Your sentiment doesn't matter here. Earth needs this planet's resources. This is bigger than you, bigger than her. She gestured to Lirien, her voice dripping with disdain. Elias took a step forward, his boots crunching against the moss beneath him. The gap between them was a gulf of difference, between someone fighting for survival and someone fighting for control. But Elias wouldn't back down. He couldn't. You're wrong, Elias said, his voice sharp with conviction. This planet isn't just a resource. These people, Lirien's people, they're not just a footnote in Earth's history. They were once part of a thriving civilization. And I'm not going to stand by and watch you destroy them further. Stanton's hand flicked to her sidearm, a move so quick it was almost instinctive. But Elias didn't flinch. He could feel his pulse racing, his body primed for whatever came next. But his mind stayed clear. This wasn't about being the better fighter. It was about protecting what was right. I will not let you manipulate this world any further, Elias said, his words harder now. If you're going to force my hand, you'll regret it. Stanton's eyes narrowed, calculating, but then her lips curled into a small, dismissive smirk. We'll see about that. Without another word, she signaled to her team, armed soldiers stepping out of the dropship, their weapons raised. Elias's hand hovered over his own blaster, but before he could act, Lirien's voice cut through the tension. No, she said, stepping forward and placing her hand on Elias's arm. Her touch was calm, but firm. This is not the way. Elias hesitated, his instincts screaming at him to fight, but he looked down at Lirien, and in her eyes, he saw the truth. Violence wouldn't solve anything. Not now. Stanton's soldiers hesitated for a moment, uncertain, but the standoff didn't last. Elias and Lirien's silent communication was enough. Slowly, Stanton stepped back, giving a slight nod to her men. You've got one chance, Caldwell. Don't make me regret this, she warned. Elias met her gaze one last time, the weight of his decision settling on his shoulders. They had bought time. Time to protect Arctura. Time to make sure Stanton wouldn't get her way. But this wasn't over. It had only just begun. Chapter 8. The Memora's Blessing. The tension of the standoff with Colonel Stanton hung in the air like a thunderstorm, waiting to break. Elias's heart still raced from the encounter, the sharp words exchanged, the flicker of violence almost igniting between them. He hadn't expected Stanton to back off so easily, but she had. The thought didn't sit right with him. There was no telling how long the fragile ceasefire would last. Lirien stood beside him, her hand gently resting on his arm, a quiet anchor in the chaos. Her golden eyes were soft now, though still wary, and Elias could feel her fear still lingering in the air between them. They won't stop, will they? Elias asked, his voice low as he stared at the distant dropship, where Stanton's soldiers moved with calculated precision. The cold, harsh efficiency of Earth's forces reminded him of what he had come to despise. Lirien shook her head slowly. They don't understand. They think resources will fix everything, but they won't. Not without understanding. Elias didn't respond immediately. Instead, his gaze shifted to the Memora, the ancient crystalline entity that stood silently at the edge of the glowing ruins. Its massive, pulsating structure seemed to shimmer in response to their presence, as though it was aware of the turmoil in the air. Without another word, Lirien turned and began to walk toward the Memora. Elias followed, his steps heavy with the weight of their situation. They needed more than time now. They needed something that would give them leverage, something that would make Earth see what they had destroyed. Lirien reached out to touch the Memora's surface once more, her fingers brushing against the cool, transparent crystal. The structure seemed to react, glowing brighter as if the Memora was aware of the gravity of the moment. The air crackled with energy, and then, as if answering Lirien's silent plea, the Memora flooded Elias's mind with a vision of Arctura's past, its rise, its fall, and its people. The faces of the lost flashed before him. He saw their lives, their dreams, and the devastation that followed. He felt their pain, deep, visceral, and raw. A voice, ancient and wise, reverberated in his mind. "You are not alone in this fight, Captain," it said, its tone warm yet full of sorrow. "The heart of this world beats still. It beats with you." Elias's breath caught in his throat. He knew what he had to do. The Memora wasn't just an archive. It was a force, a living memory that could help them, if only they could convince Stanton to listen. But time was running out, and this was just the beginning. Chapter 9. Stanton's Compromise and the Kiss Under the Moons. The distant hum of the dropship lingered in the air, as Elias and Lirien stood in the glowing ruins of Lumora. The uneasy truce with Stanton was a temporary reprieve, but both of them knew it wouldn't last. There was no real peace between Earth's military and the remnants of Arctura. Not yet. Elias couldn't shake the feeling of impending conflict. He knew what Stanton was capable of: cold, calculated, ruthless. She had only backed down because of the Memora, because of the vision it had shared. He couldn't trust her. Not yet. But for the moment, there was nothing else they could do. They had bought time. 2 weeks to prove their case, to show Earth that Arctura deserved to be more than a footnote in their conquest for resources. Lirien's hand was warm in his, and he could feel her quiet strength beside him. Her golden eyes flickered in the pale light of the twin moons overhead. The air was still, heavy with the unspoken bond between them, and Elias found himself lost in the simplicity of the moment. There was a part of him, one that he rarely acknowledged, that wished he could forget about Stanton, about Earth, about the war. He wanted to stay here, in this brief moment of peace, to savor what little they had left. "Elias," Lirien's voice broke through his thoughts, soft but determined. "You must know, this is the only chance we have. I don't want violence, but if we can't make them understand, we'll lose everything." He nodded, his jaw tightening. "I know," he said quietly, squeezing her hand. "But we have time. We'll make them listen." A movement caught his eye, a shadow in the distance. Stanton had emerged from the dropship, flanked by her soldiers. Her face was unreadable, but there was something different in her eyes now. A reluctant understanding, maybe. "We'll talk," Stanton said, her voice carrying over the quiet ruins. "But make no mistake, this is a limited observation period. If the situation changes, I won't hesitate to act." Elias stepped forward, meeting her gaze. "We'll prove it to you. Arctura has more to offer than you realize." Stanton paused, then gave a single, sharp nod. "We'll see." As she turned back to her team, Elias felt the weight of the moment settle on him. This was their chance, their fragile window of opportunity. Lirien stepped closer, her breath warm against his cheek. "Whatever happens, Elias, we're not alone." He leaned down, his lips brushing hers in a kiss that was soft at first, but quickly deepened. It was a promise, a vow, in the quiet of the glowing ruins. Their kiss was more than an embrace. It was the beginning of something new, a future they would build together, no matter the odds. Under the twin moons of Arctura, Elias knew their fight was far from over. But they had each other, and that, he believed, was enough to face whatever came next.